what the NHL has done with the schedule lately, but at one point they had leagues that were weak, or divisions that were weak. So if you're the New England Revolutions, you've got a better record than Seattle. You've got a better record than Sporting Kansas City. You've got a better record than any of those teams that are in the West. But you're saying the West teams are better because they've played each other. So it's comparable to like the city teams. The city team that goes in high school, the city team that goes 15-1, or the Catholic school team that goes 10-2, 15-1, whatever, but plays half its schedule against weak teams, and the other half against mediocre teams. And then they get to the tournament, they get smoked.
That's what the team that I coached in high school, we would roll during the regular season.
Yeah.
And then we would play that first tough opponent.
Yeah.
Sometimes we got by, but when we lost big.
Yeah.
And we weren't 4 or 5 goals worse than them, but we just sort of hit with something we hadn't seen yet, speed, power, and we just weren't ready for it.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying the Revs have played some very good teams. In fact, if you take the top 3 teams in the East, they're 4-2-2 against them. So I'm not worried. I think they can get out of the East. I just feel like I wish that they had got a little taste of those guys and got a little more game planning on them.
All right, so you're laying out an excuse for the Revs now.
Yeah, I am.
But you don't think that they're going to win. You had said last week you thought Seattle was going to. Was it Seattle that you thought things going to win?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can hold you to that.
You can hold me to that, yeah.
Okay, and if we're wrong, if you're wrong,
then we'll have Jim on the show for one episode.
All right. I was looking at your notes. The All-Star game, you had 17 of the 28 players from the West. It's not a huge differential. 17
to 11, and those 6 of them are on Seattle. That's insane. That out of starting 11, 6 are on one team.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So we're going to see Seattle. You think it's going to be New England versus Seattle in the final?
Well, so Jordan Morris, he plays for the U.S. national team. He blew his knee out on loan to England. Okay. You know, these guys go on loan, but they're still owned by Seattle. He's now supposedly coming back. He's probably the best player.
Team. Oh, he's going to come back?
Supposedly he's training right now.
Training to come back from his knee injury.
Yeah.
Can somebody step in soccer and be good?
Oh, they haven't had him all year.
I know.
Yeah, so people have stepped in. I mean, they're in second place in the West.
No, but I guess what I'm saying is, can this guy...
step right in?
Step right in with a missing a year.
Let's hope not.
Major knee surgery. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What else should we know about the tournament? Looking forward
to the playoffs?
Yeah.
Well, just that Nashville's starting to give up some goals, so that's a team in the East that shuts out a lot of teams. But now they're starting to show a little bit of weakness, so that's positive for the Revs.
Okay.
Philly's kind of heating up, and that's a team that beat us this year and like really plays physical. Cheap-shotted Turner in the face with an elbow. So I think if we play them, that's going to be a real bloodbath. It'll be similar to that Mexican CONCACAF final that we watched.
CONCACAF?
Yeah.
I love CONCACAF. I just love saying it.
Yeah.
And now that I've learned how to pronounce it, I say it all day. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. All right, I want to do this before we go any further. I want to plug a couple of teams from the this is off of Max Preps, some of the top teams in Rhode Island. Top 3 boys teams: LaSalle Academy, Tiverton, Narragansett. You ever do a gig in Tiverton?
Yep. Yeah.
It rings a bell. I'm trying to figure out why.
Yeah, I think we've done a couple.
Okay. Have we done it together?
It's down by the ocean, I believe.
Okay. Have we done it together?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Anyway, for girls, Central Charahoe, Pilgrim, and Cumberland, top 3 teams from Rhode Island.
I'll say this about Rhode Island. It's a small state, obviously much smaller than Maine.
Good soccer, though.
But when my sons would make what they call ODP, it's like
what?
ODP, Olympic Development Program.
Okay.
Would bring in the players, you'd try out, and then you'd play the other states. Rhode Island was pretty good for a small state. Maine often couldn't hold their own against New Hampshire and Mass. Connecticut's very good.
Yeah.
Rhode Island's pretty good. They got a lot of good players. They got a couple of really good clubs down there. So.
Yeah, for some reason I knew that. I don't know why, but I don't know much, as you know.
Yeah, probably a lot of Portuguese population down there, and they were obviously really good at soccer. So.
Yeah, so ethnic stereotyping.
Oh, jeez, yeah, we have to cut that out for me saying Portuguese people are good at soccer.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's fine. They are not an entitled group. They're fine. They can handle anything you want to say about them.
That's our engineer Dale. Dale Lawrence, who's our engineer, and we're going to bring you in now, Dale, for something that you're kind of an expert in, and that's head injuries.
Yeah, I've had many. When I started boxing when I was 13, had many concussions.
I bet you did.
No sympathy from my boxing coach or my mother.
And really? Your mother didn't even have sympathy for you?
Oh, she didn't care.
Paul's theory is that the head ball is less frequent than it used to be at all levels of soccer.
No, so in the pros, where you're getting a paycheck,
Yep.
you'll head the ball.
Okay.
If we were paying these high school kids, they'd head the ball more.
All right. So the high school kids head the ball less.
Yes.
And so this disappoints you.
The general rule of thumb, and you were a goalie, but you always have I remember your story, you punted it backwards over your head.
Yeah.
But if you punted it correctly out towards the field,
Sure.
the rule of thumb is for the defensive line, that ball can't bounce. Because if it bounces, bad things happen.
All right.
It bounces, then you go to get it, and someone fast comes in and gets a little short header over you, runs in and scores. So you got to make sure it doesn't bounce. The ball's bouncing all the time.
Yeah.
Now remember, they're coming off a year where you couldn't head because of COVID.
Yeah.
So, this was stupid, but they thought when you headed it, because the sweat from your hair sprays out, that was going to get someone sick. So you would watch a game and you'd be like, why aren't they heading? Well, they're not allowed to.
That's bizarre because they didn't stop boxing during COVID.
Right, I know.
Or MMA. They didn't stop any of those traumatic sports.
They didn't stop MMA during COVID?
Oh, MMA was flourishing.
Oh, yeah, they
during
were. They were
COVID.
doing empty stadium stuff right away.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's pro, right?
Yeah.
So that's why, because it's pro.
So, I mean, that's one reason.
They didn't mind NBA players sweating on each other. They didn't mind NFL players sweating.
But I think when you head it, the force of the sweat, it's going out further. I mean, it's absurd when you hear it now, but that's what they thought. But I think you got the combination of that.
Some of the top scientists are working for Major League Soccer right now, I believe.
Really?
Top scientists.
Top scientists?
No.
It's funny. It reminds me.
You had me going there. What are they trying to figure out?
It reminded me of like the sports science shows where you see the guy and they move and they see the sweat coming in super slow motion and the face kind of jabbling.
Right. This header gave 7 people COVID. Watch this header that he does here.
Well, they didn't know it. One thing about COVID is there's a lot of stuff they didn't know, so they took all precautions. Right. But anyway, so they didn't head. They didn't head the ball. They didn't allow heading in soccer.
So that's one reason. But obviously, all the literature out there about concussions too. Yeah. People are not as willing to throw their head into something. Why would you?
Yeah, especially in a sport, I think that you don't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, in a boxing or hand-to-hand combat sport, it's a part of that. That's where you go for. That's the prime spot, Dave. I know you know this from your days getting your ass kicked on the playground.
I actually boxed once. I boxed once in I don't know, middle school, high school. I don't know what, but I boxed a buddy of mine in high school, and afterwards, one of the guys says it looked like 2 dinosaurs fighting. Anyway,
just to cut into what you said, though, but you said you don't necessarily have to, and you're right. That's what the players think. But if you ask the coach, you'd be like, you damn well have to. I don't want that thing bouncing.
Oh, okay, all right.
So the coach wants you to head. I had a team of girls about 3 years ago. I just gave up. I'm like, we're literally not going to win any headers. The other team's going to head it. It's going to be back on our end. We're going to have to get it from there.
Does it hurt to hit a ball?
If you do
it doesn't
wrong,
feel great.
Oh, it does. Okay.
If you do it incorrectly, this is the damage. What I've been told is the damage comes when you don't head it correctly, which is also when it hurts the most.
Yeah.
The idea of it is you're supposed to get it from the front. You're supposed to hit it from the front.
Yeah.
In this little lump of a forehead you have that basically, I think it's the part of the brain that determines personality, the frontal lobe. Which
Soccer players are very flat.
Some of
That's bizarre because after a few years of boxing, you literally don't even feel the shot. Yeah, it kind of just pickles your brain. You can't even feel it.
I don't mean to say it hurts, but it's not
like a COVID test. It's like your 5th COVID test. After a while, it doesn't tickle your brain the same way.
If the ball is like a cheaply made soccer ball with really hard plastic, it's not super comfortable heading it.
Mexico?
Yeah. Or, okay, so those punts, that's one thing. That's a looping ball. But if someone lines a shot and you're in like the goal mouth and you head it out, like you've seen pros do that, and they have to take a minute and a half to get their stuff together again. It's not easy.
It's not easy?
No.
Okay, so you're saying that high school kids aren't heading the ball, and it's a good thing.
Not as often. I would say when I watch the game, I'll see a couple kids that are taking everything. They're the beasts on the team that are going for everything. But I see a lot of kids trying to get under it and maybe chest it. Move the guy off and chest it so they don't have to head it. They're looking for reasons not to head it, but it's not obvious.
You think it's them, or you think it's the parents?
Both. But I think they're aware of these injuries, and they're hearing about what happens to football players later on in life.
Wow.
Hey, that's very similar in a boxing when guys who didn't want to get hit, they just curl into the corner, they put their gloves up and they turn away.
Yeah,
that's
they give a little screech. Don't hit me.
That's what I would do. I would do that.
Same thing.
Yeah.
What do you do when you hear that screech? Is that a sign?
You start foaming at the mouth and you line them up for the kill shot, baby.
I love how your scenario doesn't have you in a ball. I
used to, when you first start out, I'm sure it's the same in soccer. When you first start out, you don't know how to head the ball and you're going to shy away from it.
Yeah.
Absolutely in boxing. You first start out, someone comes at you, your instinct is to curl into a corner and put your hands up and wave the white flag that your mom always used to. Your mom used to give you a little handkerchief. That was the white flag to say, "Hey, I don't want to fight." When Dave waves the white flag, leave him alone.
You used to bring a pocket square into the boxing ring with you. Did you ever box, Paul?
Yes.
Are you any good?
I never fought anyone. I just took lessons.
All right. Nobody compared you to a dinosaur?
No, I had a quick little jab.
You had a quick jab?
You want to like
wait.
Okay.
Here's my vision of your quick jab is then the other person is looking, and then you had a quick jab for when the other person wasn't looking. Is that right?
I never fought anyone. I just shadow boxed.
You shadow boxed?
I trained. Yeah.
Do you ever play punch the paper?
No.
With your father?
No.
Dale, you ever play punch the paper?
Punch the paper?
Yeah.
Well, your fist goes through the paper?
We played punch my father, not punch the paper.
When we were little kids, my father would come home after a long, hard day at work, and he'd spread out the globe in front of him, and he'd be in his chair, and he'd open up the globe, and we played punch the paper, in which I don't know how old we were, 2, 3, 4. We would come up and we would punch the paper. Oh, you know what?
Yeah, I did do that.
Yeah, it was great fun.
Why was that fun? It was.
Then you'd scream, punch the paper. Because
you
had done something wrong. You created noise. You would hit something.
Well, you just gave me a childhood memory.
You're welcome.
I just fought through all my head injuries and remembered what you told me.
Dale, do you ever play punch the paper?
Not really, no. Never played punch the paper.
He was going to do it once, but his father would bring home hardcover books.
But I will say, I go back to Paul's story about how he did some boxing as a youngster.
Yeah.
We had a boxing club in the town that I live in, and I used to work there. Some of the best fighters to come into the gym were ex and current soccer players. It's the hand and eye coordination. They have great balance.
Really?
They're very fit.
Yep.
Cardiovascular wise.
Yep.
And they're aggressive. A lot of soccer players, I never knew this until they started coming into the gym.
Those are the ones.
Very aggressive.
Those are the ones that will head it.
Yeah, very aggressive.
Yes.
They were some of the better fighters.
Yeah.
That came in, absolutely.
I don't know about being great with your hands, how that would translate to soccer, because you don't use your hands.
Great footwork, hand and eye coordination.
Hand-eye coordination, I could see. But yeah, well, one of the things about American soccer has been that it was greeted as a non-contact, non-violent sport, which was ridiculous because it's if you play it well, there's a lot of incidental contact. There's a lot of you've got to be fit. It's run, and it's hit. It's knees clacking together. It's not football, but it's still it's the old thing about everything's a contact sport and football is a collision sport, but it's very interesting. And then I saw when the first statistics came out on head injuries, I thought this has got to be an interesting development for parents who got their kids into soccer with the idea that it would be a good sport for them, it'd keep them fit, it'd be a lot of fun, and they wouldn't have to injure themselves.
If you didn't know anything about soccer and you showed up with your 6-year-old, knowing what we know about head injuries, and you said to the coach, okay, here's Jimmy, he's ready for practice, and the coach said, all right, Jimmy, come on out here. I'm going to have this kid here punt the ball up in the end. You're just going to let it land on your head. You'd be like, wait a minute, you're doing what with him? Well,
I always thought soccer was kind of a low